All right, welcome back. We are now doing Module 3 for the Hazardous Materials and Dangerous Goods training. And what we're doing here is going over the Hazardous Materials table and the Dangerous Goods list. So each of the regulations has their own way that they put their list of the goods and all the things you need to know about it. The 49 CFR, which is the domestic regulations, theirs is called the Hazardous Materials Table, while the IMDG for the ocean shipment is called a Dangerous Goods List. So you'll see it referred to HMT or DGL. So the lists are fairly similar, and as we'll get when we get any of y'all doing the IATA training, their list is a little bit different also. But just wanted to go over a few things overall with the list. For this module, you're going to need Exhibits 9, which is the Hazardous Material Table, Exhibits 10A and B, which is the Dangerous Goods List, and 11, which is the Emergency Response Guide. So if you have those ready, we'll be referring those. But let's just start off about a little bit how they're different, and then we'll kind of dig into how they're similar. The 49 CFR, all the entries, the hazardous materials and substances, are listed in alphabetical order by their proper shipping name. This is the old way of doing things. The US hasn't changed. The IMDG, their entries are in numeric order of the UN numbers. So a little bit different. 49 CFR, if you know the name of it, you can go find it. If you IMDG, you have to know the UN number in order to find it. There are cross-reference lists before each table that will give you the list by UN number under the 49 CFR, and the IMDG has a list that's in alphabetical order. So just kind of learn which book you're using and what you're going to need to go look it up on the table real quickly. The DOT has a symbol column, which is the first column that we'll go over what that means in there. And their quantity limitations are for air shipments only. So the IMDG, that goes into specific what the limited quantities are and how much you can actually ship and your maximum and capacity you can ship under that classification. So it gives a little bit more details. So if you see them side by side based on the columns, DOT has 10 columns, IMDG has 17. And we're going to dig in on the next page on what those are. So let's look real quickly at what our exhibits are going to be. First of all, we've got a hazardous material table, which you should be able to see on your screen. And what I've done is I was provided a list of commodities that y'all move in your areas. It can go anywhere from the struts, and then we've got some batteries and lithium-ion batteries. We've got some paint and safety devices. So what I did is I kind of made a mini Mercedes hazardous table. And like the 49 CFR, these are in alphabetical order. The headings are all the same. So this is a good one to refer to because it's going to look just like what you see in the book when you go to look something up. Lots of numbers. Understand that it can look really busy and very technical when you first look at it. But, depending on what your function is, you only need certain columns that you need to look at that you're going to be concerned with. And then some things like special provisions and packaging and quantity limitations, things like that, you're only going to need to figure that out one time because they don't change year to year. Now, when you get a new book, you'll have to look it up. So, but most of the books, when things do change, which is nice, if you go to your commodity, you go there, and if it's changed, it'll either be in a different kind of color, or it'll be marked with a little triangle on the side as it is with IATA, but it'll show you something that has changed, and that's good to kind of review when you get your new books in, just to see if anything of the commodities you're dealing with has changed. And the good news is on the vessel storage, we're not going to have to worry about vessel storage unless any of y'all are having the vessel actually show up at your facility and you're loading the vessel right there from your dock, but I doubt it. So this is what the dangerous goods hazardous material table looks like. Then we've got Exhibit 10A, which is the dangerous goods list, the DGL. I think it's called 10A here. Oh, the other one's 10. Oh, there you go. 9. Dangerous goods list here. Here, I've got them in order of the UN number or the ID number. So, you know, if you're going by the name, you might want to cross-reference and go up top and look at, or not up top, but you've got them printed, or up top, and look where it is on the 49 CFR list. If you know the name of it, then you'll be able to find it a lot easier here. This one, the IMDG, because they go into a little more detail, is a little bit longer. And this one actually goes 2 pages to cover all your commodities, and it's got more columns, so it had to be a little bit smaller print, so sorry about that. The other thing that's kind of interesting that's different with these is some of your commodities they handle a little bit different. And I'll just show you a couple of examples on here. On our hazardous materials table, if you see here, dangerous goods and machinery or dangerous goods and apparatus. Either one of those names can be used. It's only one line item. But when you go down to the IMDG list, you've got, oh, I'm sorry, it's the same one. That's not a good one to use an example of. Sorry about that. The lithium ion batteries that are contain in equipment or packed with, things like that. They can be slightly different. A lot of that, I'm getting a little confused because I just updated the IATA stuff yesterday too. But you have to kind of be careful just because it's good a certain way and one way. And a lot of this only gets into very specific packing details of some things, but for the most part, they are the same. And so you're going to refer to this when we start going column by column, so you get a little bit more familiar of the dangerous goods list, the different columns and how they kind of flow across and what you're looking for. The other thing, I tell everybody, one of the best resources you can have with one of these books, if you're looking at the book, is a ruler. Biggest mistake we make in our company is that they're reading across on a page and they lose their place on the line and they put information on the entry above or below it. So getting a ruler there, really important. If you're the one that gets the IATA book, happens to get that, it's kind of nice because they have their own ruler in the book. So that's kind of nice, but there's only one, sorry. And then Exhibit 11 is an emergency response guidebook, and I've got one of the pages out of there, so we'll go over that a little bit when we get to that section. So back to me again. This little area, I think it's the other thing as far as looking at this just gives you a side-by-side. One of the things we're going to talk about on some things are subsidiary risks when we have mixtures. I brought it up a little bit when we talk about the precedence table in Module 1, that there can be a mixture. So something can be both flammable and corrosive. So there's a way to determine whether it's more flammable, and that's the primary risk, and say corrosive is the subsidiary risk. We call them label codes in the DOT in column number 6, but to really find these and be very clear about it, it is in column number 4, which is actually called subsidiary risks. You don't hear people use the term label codes. So you're not going to find that word in the 49 CFR. So I would just put like a little tiny asterisk or a little highlight or something near subsidiary risk so that you know kind of where to find it, especially if I ask a question on the test. But you'll see some of the columns match up. The IMDG actually is in the exact order of which you have to do your entries onto your shipping papers. The DOT, that's the old way that you used to do the order, and they've never updated their list to bring it up to put the identification number first. Not really a big deal. We'll get to that on shipping papers of exactly what those orders are. There's special provisions where they are on DOT. I think those are pretty important because you're doing the packing in the United States and what those provisions are. The special provisions aren't as detailed. Well, there's a lot of them in there, but the special provisions in column number 7 of the DOT is something that you also need to keep an eye on. And something else I'd like to just point out to people, and then you see the packing, you see some quantity limitations. IMDG goes into the intermediate bulk containers, which are the larger containers on instructions. DOT doesn't do that. You have to go to the packing regulations to find the real details on that. I said the quantity limitations on DOT is just for air freight, whereas in column number 9, column number 7 on the IMDG, limited and exempted quantities. That's very helpful if you've got items that possibly could be limited. Unfortunately, y'all don't have that with any of your commodities that y'all have. So we won't spend a lot of time on that. And then, both of them have vessel stowage, but those are for the carriers to look at, the ocean carriers, to figure out how to stow something on a vessel. The other one we'll point out is number 15. The emergency response code is in the IMDG because that's a requirement that is needed for ocean carriage, but it's not on domestic. So the steamship lines look for that, and that's where to find it. And I'll explain that a little different. The other thing I want to call to your attention, if you get a chance, is column number 17 on the IMDG is called Properties and Observations. And that's just an interesting little column or something to read about your commodity because it kind of gives you a little bit of the physical characteristics. Does it have a smell? Is it harmful? Just some little things that might help you identify it a little bit better. Like I said, y'all don't have a lot of commodities with that, but if you want to know, what's the difference between this type of battery and that type of battery, and what does it do to qualify as a non-spillable versus a spillable? This will give you some of that brief observation there that maybe you'll determine that, I might need to look that up a little bit more just to make sure this is falling into the right category. Because you battery people out there, once you got it, batteries are fine, but there's a lot of entries for batteries because they can be very specific on spillable, non-spillable, what kind of materials they're made out of. And then you've got all the lithium ion batteries with different things of whether they're packed within a machine, they're packed in with the machine or actually contained in the machine. All can be a little bit different category. They really have tried very hard, though, I would say, to try to clean this up in the last few years, taking out some of the mystery. But if any of y'all were around a couple of years ago, most of the carriers would not even accept lithium-ion batteries because there were some fires on some aircraft. They were not packaged real well. They were self-combustible. So it was a little bit scary, I guess, for a while. And it's still considered one of the more difficult things to ship, and people kind of back away from it. Also, just a comment here, too, is one of the commodities that you'll have in the plant is paint. Well, paint, as you know, can come in a lot of different forms. There's water-based paints, there's oil-based paints, there's lacquers, there's varnishes, there's paint thinners. All these fall into potentially to be flammable. Well, depends on what they're made of is how flammable they can be. So a paint can be packing group 1, 2, or 3, depending on what the flammability is or what the flammable flash point is of that actual paint structure. And of course, there's some paints out there that aren't hazardous at all. So just with the water base and how they're made. So that's something to really know when you've got multiple entries of the same commodity on these tables, to make sure you're choosing the right one. Or if you're shipping something that is, say, a paint that's non-hazardous, when we prepare our documents, would put, even though we don't have to, we would put paint and in parentheses non-hazardous. It kind of just identifies to the carrier that we've done the research. We didn't just forget to leave it off. So some of that is helpful. But again, that's looking under some of those special properties. So what we'll do is go to your next handout, and we're going to dig into a little bit of the characteristics of the items that are on your dangerous goods list in IMDG and your hazardous material table in your 49 CFR. And I'm going to kind of go through this. It's going to be more in, the important stuff is in the left-hand column that you're going to have pretty much on every shipment. Then I'm going to go into the other columns where they can be helpful but may not be actually appearing on the shipping papers. Hopefully that'll roll through. Now, you're going to hear the term basic description. And what the basic description is anything shipped on hazardous. These 5 things, really it's 4, and I'll explain why it's 4 or 5, basically show up on all of them. Some of them might not have all 4, but you've got to at least consider this on all of your shipping papers. So we start off with the big one, which is the identification number. The identification number, or the UN number, as you all hear, it is totally fine to call it a UN number. That's what everyone calls it. In DOT, it's in column number 4. In IMDG, it's in column number 1. So what does UN stand for? Well, UN stands for United Nations. It is, the United Nations has come up with this. You have to apply to them to get a new UN number. A little history: when they first created the first list of a consolidated list and to have some kind of structure, they did it in order, and they did all the classes in class order. So they started with all the class 1s, the explosives, and then they went to the class 2s, and then they went to the class 3s. So if you look at a lot of the UN numbers, the lowest numbers are class 1, then they get higher as they go up. So when they were done, they started adding new numbers. Of course, new products come. So all of the numbers that probably began with the 3,000, it was somewhere around 3,000, 3,100. They kind of stopped being in class order. So they're all jumbled up that they're UN 3, beginning with the 3, which most of y'all do, because the automobile products that y'all ship are things that have come about in the last 20 years or so since they created this list. So it's a 4-digit number in the 49 CFR. Like I said, y'all don't have any of these commodities. But every now and then you might see it in the book that you see a number, 4-digit number that starts with the letter NA. NA stands for North America. And these can be shipped within the US and Canada only under that classification. Now, it's called North America. I don't know why we left Mexico out. Probably because at the time, we did not trust their hazardous material regulations. We do with Canada. Canada actually has very strict, good, clean regulations, mirror ours pretty much to the point. So if you run across things, and usually it's things that are used in our region only. One of them used to be textile compounds. One is asbestos, has an NA number. So that type of asbestos, if it falls into that category, and I'm sure it's not really good asbestos, probably more for disposable purposes, can only be shipped within North America, and USA and Canada, probably for disposal. But other parts of the world won't accept it. So makes sense. So that's your ID or UN number. Pretty simple. I think everybody's kind of familiar with those. The next is your proper shipping name, which we refer to as the PSN. So you might see that abbreviation because it's hard to type that out all the time. You don't really use that abbreviation, but you use it in notes, things like that. But it's never used on actual shipping paper. So this is one that mirrors each other. And DOT, it's in column 2. IMDG, it is in column 2 also. So the thing with this is there's a lot of information in that proper shipper name column. Sometimes it's just the name of the hazardous good, and sometimes it's a lot more information. Only the words that are in Roman type are part of the actual proper shipping name. If it's in italics, it's just used for clarification. Sometimes there's 2 words that are in Roman type, and there's the word or in between them. That means either word can be used. You're going to find that twice on the table. And then if you see the word C, it's going to have the second name, but the second name is going to be in italics, and it's going to tell you, or your first name is in italics that you're trying to see. And then the second name is the actual, it says, see this proper shipping name. So you're not going to find any other information there except that name alphabetically. So you need to go find the other name. And none of yours has that, but if you run it across, that's what it means basically. So you're looking for those bold terms, the bold and the Roman type words in there. It's bold in the IMDG. It's not in the 49 CFR. It is in the IATA too. So either name can be used when you have a C, but you have to go see the other one for the hazardous details sometimes. So if the hazardous detail's not there, you go look up the other one, basically what it means. Qualifying words may or may not be used. Things like if you've got a paint, which is, when you read the for paint, it can include lacquers, paint thinners, different things, varnish, or whatever. You may want, because you do a lot of different paints, and to be able to identify that in case there's an incident, and to be able to give better instructions to the first responders there, you may decide to put paint. All the rest of the words are in italics, but you could put paint and put in parentheses next to that varnish, or paint in parentheses or with a dash, paint thinner. That is perfectly fine. Those are qualifying words. They may or may not be used, but usually it's only when you've got a choice of a lot of different ones that it could be, and you produce all those commodities. Concentration ranges you see sometimes. Sometimes something with a concentration range of 50% more may be classified as, severely hazardous, so it takes a packing group 1. Something with a concentration range of 30% may qualify as a packing group 2, or something with only 10% concentration range or less is a packing group 3. So you may want to give that percentage of the concentration range as part of your proper shipping name to better identify it. So it's just a good way to check. It's like if it's got there and it's got a concentration range of 24%, they know that it falls between 11% and 25%, so it does belong in that packing group too. So again, you don't really have anything with concentration ranges, but it's just something out there that you're going to see. Next, we have the hazard class, and we will talk a little bit more about the hazard class in the next module, getting a little bit more specific. They are both in column 3 in the DOT and IMDG. There are a total of 10 classes, 0 through 9. Classes 1, 2, 4, 5, and 6 have divisions. That means they have multiple parts to each class. And like I said, we'll go over those and clarify those a little bit more. But the hazard class, that's that immediate response. It tells you what labels, what placards go on the goods and on the containers. So that's just something that we'll get into on classes, but you need that. That's really important on the general awareness that even though you only move class 2, class 8, and class 9, doesn't mean you shouldn't know what the other ones were, what they are. Because when you see something that's got class 7 label, it's radioactive, you should say, whoa, I don't think this belongs here, or something's wrong with this, or I really need to treat this with care. So we'll talk about that on the next module. The packing group. Well, the packing group is pretty important. The packing group is really kind of interesting. They're both under DOT 5 and IMDG 5, same column. It indicates the relative degree of danger. So there's things that are not dangerous at all. And some of those actually don't even get a packing group at all. And some of your commodities do that. And we'll go over that under the automobile products and with this. So, it determines the type packaging that needs to be used. So of course you're going to have, if you're a packing group 3, actually, let me explain what those are. And it's the other thing, the group is typed as a capital I. It is not the number 3 if you have a packing group 3. That is a flag to anyone in this business that you might not know what you're doing. So you use the Roman numerals 1, 2, or 3. Packing group 1, like I said, there's 3 of them. That is the greatest level of danger. Again, it's the greatest level of danger. So even though everything that you prepare, shipping papers, dangerous goods declaration, the way you handle it, everything should be done correctly. But when you've got a packing group 1, you know you really want to be extra special. Like within our company, if we ever have someone preparing documents for a packing group 1, they usually come to me or someone on my team and get them to review it for approval just in case. So packing group 2, which is a medium level of danger. Some of your products do fall into a packing group 2. A lot of the packaging material are designed for packing group 2. It's just the safe way to go because a lot of companies have 2s and 3s, so they just buy packing group 2. But it's that medium level of danger. And then packing group 3 is a minor level of danger. So some of your goods fall into packing group 3, but even some of your goods, like the miscellaneous items that you have, like the airbags and the struts and the seatbelt pretensioners, they don't even have a packing group. They can be packaged as long as it's a good, sturdy package that doesn't, the general definition of a package, that something can't be destroyed while it's in transit in regular packaging conditions. So, so you've got the 1, 2, or 3. I wanted to say something else about the packing groups, but it does kind of stick out. That's where when you're receiving goods, that's the person who's receiving. If they're receiving something that's a packing group 1, and it's got a box that's a carton that's got torn edges, and you can tell it's not reinforced, kind of like any of the packages you get a lot of times from China, they just aren't really well packaged. I mean, they do fine on their hazardous goods, but a simple cardboard box should be used. It's got to be a thick, reinforced, corrugated cardboard. So someone receiving the cargo, they should know of their paper. It's like, okay, this is kind of strange that this is coming in a cardboard box. It's a packing group 1. It could be that it's a simple overlay just for marking the goods, and really the inner packaging is what's sturdy. And that's all possible, but that's very unlikely. So knowing your packing groups is important to be able to identify the groups. And we'll talk about, we don't talk about it much, but your packing group also determines exactly what kind of testing you need, like drop tests and leak-proof test, and what's allowed and what isn't allowed. And we talk about that a little bit in another module too. And then the other thing that's part of the basic description are your label codes or your subsidiary risk. And again, this is only 10-15% of all the entries on the tables of the hazardous materials have more than one hazard class that you would have to know whether it's the primary or subsidiary, which again are mixtures. If you have one of these, which y'all don't, they're found in column number 6 of the DOT, column 4 of the IMDG. It's with mixtures, like I said, and it's entered in parentheses after the hazard class. We'll show you some of those, like on the shipping papers and on the automotive products, of how that works. So that's your basic description. That's what you want to start with. And if you're preparing any kind of documents, I tell my staff, before I go to enter something, you may have a system that you can select some things in your system and it's pretty simple. But if you're actually entering the data into a field, I always ask my people to write it down before you go to enter your hazardous. You know, if you've got some airbags there, you want to sit there and say, okay, let me write this out like I'm going to enter it into. What is my UN number? What is my proper shipping name, comma, what is my hazard class, comma, what is my packing group, comma, or do I have a label code? Do I go and put it in parentheses after the hazard class? But I write it all out, and if there's other things that apply, I want to write it all out before I put it in there, because it's easy to skip over one when you're just typing into a system. So, and we'll talk about it later too, if you have templates for your shipping documents, or you have programs where you can select the commodity and it automatically enters the information that's the same every time, that's great, because once it's done right, you don't have to worry about it again. So let's talk about some of the other columns, because these are columns that can help you depending on what your job description is. So first in DOT, we've got column number 1. The only thing really in this column, there's some numbers and some symbols in this column, and it basically tells you that it's restricted. This hazardous product is only considered hazardous if it moves by that mode of transportation. So if it's got an A there, the regulations only apply to water. If it has a W, air. A stands for air. W, if it has a W, it's water. If it's D, it's domestic, which means truck or rail. I, international, meaning for ocean, it only applies there. It's not considered hazardous in the US. So you don't run into a lot of those that you see. The one that you will see a lot, and it's good for you to know, is the G. And G stands for generic, or really what we use nowadays is the term a technical name is required. So we can't have a UN number for every single product out there in the world. So they're able to combine some of them that have common characteristics and common things you do in case there's an incident, and how you would respond. That could be something like flammable liquids, NOS, not otherwise specified. Well, what they want from you is, yes, you can use the UN number 1993, but they want to know what that technical name is. And what they're asking for is, what's the chemical in there that makes it flammable? So, and we'll talk about these a little bit more when we get to the shipping papers, but knowing in that column, you're looking for the letter G. For special provisions, for DOT, it's under number 7 and number 6 for IMDG. They do not match. The IMDG numbers and the DOT numbers are not the same. So you have to look at both of them if they're going international. So they provide what the requirements are and some exceptions and exemptions that are specific to that identification number. So this is when you get a new product, you really want to look at these because these are kind of your get out of jail free, or I don't have to do this with this because it qualifies because I only have this much of this material in that product. That's something that you'd want to look at. It doesn't qualify, but you want to look at for your safety devices, your airbags, your seatbelt pretensioners, your struts, which are articles pressurized. You know, how much of that hazardous material is in there and how much, you know, whether or not it's got some kind of exemption or exception there. And when I say exemptions, you know, any company can petition to DOT to try to get their commodity exempted from being considered hazardous. Most of the time when you look through the regulations, you'll see it doesn't apply, but every now and then it does. You know, the designs of the struts and the airbags and the seatbelt pretensioners change to the point where it is such a minimal thing that in no way could cause a hazard, they may be able to get an exemption, but more than likely that's going to be your supplier doing that. So, and it's possible that they're not all equal. Every airbag is not equal. Some of them have a very low amount considered and qualify as a class 9 miscellaneous. You could have some that still have a higher explosion factor, and it could be considered a 1.4, an explosive product. So it is possible. The letters preceding the numbers, first they're all in numeric order, immediately following the hazardous material table and the IMDG dangerous goods list. They're in numeric order, and we'll look at those. If you're looking at your example, you can see some that have numbers in it, and you would just go find that number. If it's got an A in front of it, that provision only deals with A. H is for highway, R is for rail, W is for water. All makes sense. B is for bulk, which y'all really don't have that. N is for non-bulk. That's the thing that y'all do. It means it's smaller packages. It's under, I think it's 44,000 pounds, 4,400 pounds per piece. T is an intermodal tank. TP is a portable tank. Y'all aren't moving those. Y'all could be receiving them in though. The thing on here, I talked about the technical names and whether it was needed or not. It's just, it's in the symbol column on the DOT, as I said above, but in the IMDG, when you're looking for whether a technical name is needed or not, it has got the special provision 274 listed in column number 6. There's also a list of them in the books in one of the appendices too. So right now, y'all don't have any of these that apply to that. So we talked about the emergency response guide a little bit earlier. That's your column number 15 on the IMDG. It's listed there because vessels need to have this number. They require it because it tells you what to do in case of a fire or if there's a spill. Thus, F stands for fire, S stands for spillage. So in there, you would just go over to column 15, your ocean guys. I've checked some of the documents that y'all have already done on your dangerous goods declaration. Those are all fine. And then you would just go look and see what that response would be. And that EMS guide is actually, let me see if I've got, this is actually what we're looking for. Okay, this is actually not the guide. This is the guide that's used more for air freight. Sorry about that. But it basically tells you if there's a fire, there's explosion, what the public safety is, what the potential hazards are, what the health can be, what the, if they ever have to evacuate anything, things like that. So the trucker has it on hand, the ocean carriers have it on hand, and it's just a guidebook. There's another one for maritime. I'm sorry, I got the wrong exhibit here for y'all, but you get the idea that you just go to the guide number. We'll go over this in IATA, and then it tells you exactly what the first responders are having to do. Okay, So we talked about properties and observations. Again, I do think that you should look at these. I think they're kind of interesting, but it does give you, again, that good core general awareness, things that you see that here's where you're like reactions of things of like they might tell you to keep away from a certain class product. That's where it kind of comes back to that precedence thing, that if you've got two commodities that shouldn't go in the same container, they probably shouldn't be next to each other in your warehouse either. So some of that on the precedence, the properties and observations will kind of give you a little lead to that other area. So again, and some of this is going to be a little bit redundant, and you're wondering why I'm not getting into too much detail on some of this, is because we're going over a lot of this when we actually get to the actual shipping papers and the actual packaging, things like that. We're going to go into a lot more detail of what these mean. This is just showing you where on the table it is. So I'm not going in totally into detail of what you do with it yet. Then there's some other columns that you could be using. Packaging, DOT, it's in column 8. IMDG, it's in column 8 and 9. DOT, it's in columns A, B, and C. Really, you would only use column 8B, which is the non-bulk shipment. So if you look at the top of the column, it has the numbers 173 ... Well, whatever number is in there, that's where you go in the regulations and find those packaging instructions. So pretty easy once you get used to it. 173 follows the hazmat table. A lot of things follow the hazmat table, but you just go to that section, then you can look up on the thing, and then once you're there, you know you're there, because usually it's something very specific to that commodity. Like it might say, for articles pressurized, commonly used in, automobile struts and shocks and so and so and so and so. And then it'll tell you that, packaging needs to be complied with so that the individual pieces do not rub against each other or can knock against. There must be insulation in between each package, or each package must be for liquid stuff in its own sealable plastic bag that is leak proof, blah, blah, blah. And it gets into very specifics on some of those things. So that's real helpful. But again, that's usually bigger than a lot of people's pay grades of making those decisions, or I shouldn't say pay grade, a different department that makes those decisions. But a lot of this goes into when you look at some of the packaging in the warehouse and you're like, oh my God, it looks like they just went overboard with this because they've got these molds inside of these cardboard cartons and they've got reinforced side. Well, it may be something that one of the packing group's instructions told you that you're supposed to do, or it's preferred to do. So, sometimes better safe than sorry. And most companies take one little level above what they have to do. So, but they're also looking for cost savings too. Packaging is extremely important. So you don't want to get it wrong, because you don't want to throw away a bunch of packaging materials that aren't any good anymore. For IMDG, they kind of do the same thing, but their packing instructions are in their section 4.1.4, just numbered a little bit different. They kind of go in the same kind of order, but you would just find it in the book at 4.1.4. And then you're going to have a number in that column that starts with a P or an LP, and we'll talk about that. That's for liquid. But and then you go to that page in that thing. It might be 9002 or whatever. Little secret I didn't know about or didn't realize, but the packing group, whatever number it starts with, that's the class it is. So that should match up. So kind of makes sense. So if you're dealing with your articles pressurized or your struts, those are a class 2.2. So if you look up articles pressurized hydraulic, packing group, that P number starts with a 2. Totally makes sense, doesn't it? But like I said, we'll get into a little bit more detail on the packaging. That's a whole separate module on that, the packaging with the marking and labelings. The other thing are limited quantities and accepted quantities. The sad thing for y'all is that all of the commodities y'all are doing have no accepted quantities. They are hazardous or they're not hazardous. There's no, if it's a small enough amount, you can ship it as an accepted quantity. There is a possibility with limited quantities. And this again is going back to your suppliers, whether they shipped it to you as being able to be in limited quantities or not. Limited quantities basically, well, they're listed in the IMDG, which they're really good, is under 7A and 7B. You have to dig into the regulations to find them under packaging for the 49 CFR. So if you're looking at your limited quantities, section 3.4, and that's in that second book where your dangerous goods list is, it comes right after that, written in really good plain English. I read that every now and then just to kind of touch upon it. But there's a lot of different variances on whether something can be a limited quantity or not. Again, that's not a decision that's made on the floor. That's usually a decision made by your hazmat department. The unit is listed in the column. So, paint's an interesting one because, the lower the packing group number, which is packing group 1, is the smaller amount that you can ship in limited quantity. So a packing group 1, I believe, there isn't any, or a packing group 2 may just be 5 liters or 1 liter or whatever. And packing group 3 is the other. So I'm not looking at the list in front of me, sorry. So that's where the different packing groups come in based on how much, what kind of area of hazardous it falls into. So, so if that individual package, and when I'm talking about packaging, the inner packaging, so if you've got a can of paint and you've got 4 cans in one outer box that you put them in, it's that individual can of paint that counts, not the whole box of 4 of them, just so you know. But if it's less than that quantity and they don't need labels, and it doesn't, nor does the container require a placard. So depending on how it is and what kind of labels, we'll talk about that a little bit more on the labels because there are some labels out there that need it. So it is something, some containers are marked with limited quantities. If you've got multiple different hazardous commodities in there, that's a possibility also. So limited quantities, we'll talk about them a little bit more too. And then under 7B is your accepted quantities. Again, under y'all's, it all begins with an E. E0 means there are no accepted quantities. So you would need to know for all of your commodities, they're in E0. There are no accepted quantities for those. So, but those are in the IMDG under 3.5. Simple little section right there that you can look up and tell real quickly whether or not you're going to need, you've got a chance for something to be an accepted quantity. So that's our table. And like I said, this is one of those, depending what you're looking for, you're not having to read everything on that table. So if you're preparing the shipping papers for domestic, you're probably only going through 1 through 6. You don't need, or 1 through 5 on the IMDG. You don't need some of those other columns because all you have to do is you're preparing your shipping paper. So I want column 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 to determine what my basic description is, and that's all I need. It's not a limited quantity. The thing's already packaged. My packaging department has already determined it's the right package. Now I am going by ocean, so I do need to jump over to the IMDG and check out column number 15 and verify that is. So, there's others that, you might be doing your shipping papers and you're typing the inner receptacle and you're putting on there that, the description of the packaging is that it's in some kind of container that's holding the liquid or whatever, and in that is cartons or whatever, and you see the box that you're about to load or actually to do, and you know that, one, you don't ship liquids, two, the boxes don't have orientation arrows showing which way they should be put down on the ground. Something may not look right. So that's kind of tying all back in. I go back into the general awareness things because there's going to be a lot of things that you may not be specifically responsible for, but there are little check systems that you see of you know, more than likely you're not going to see a packing group 1 in a normal cardboard box. And if you do, something's probably wrong. It's probably not a packing group 1, which is more than likely in your situation, or they picked out the wrong box to actually package it. So, but again, these are, I've got these little guidelines for you. I will certainly update those if y'all need me to anytime. They should be a really good resource. My thought was, I wish that every time we get a new hazardous commodity that we move in our company, we have to enter it into our system. And it would be great, because I can't currently download that system with the provider we have, but it would have been great logging those into some kind of database or spreadsheet so it came out perfectly on the document every time, of knowing, so whoever's checking the document, exactly what kind of packaging it would need, any kind of special provisions right there, so that if my customer ever asked, I could pull that out for that particular commodity. And you'll see those. I've got some of those. I think there was a couple of them on the last 3 pages of the automotive products. I'll be doing a lot more of those this week. So this is Module 3. And next we're going to be going into Module 4, which is going to be talking more about the classification and the data, and how we make sure that we've got the right data and we're moving the right type of goods, and it's what we ordered, and they identify with the way they're labeled and marked. So the next one is going to be the easiest module, I promise. So that's about it. Again, any kind of questions, shoot me an email. If you find I said something contradictory to what's on the paper, hey, I make mistakes, you know. Always find something that there's a typo or something on the pages or whatever, but if you come across, let me know. But yeah, shoot me an email. And if you want to wait till one of the review sessions, you know, wherever you are, it's going to be every day at 3 o'clock your time, I believe, every day. So if you want to join one of those Teams calls and jump on, please do. I don't care whether or not you pop up with your face. Our company has a policy that if we have access to a camera, we need to be on camera. So I would like to meet some of y'all. I do know I have met some of y'all in the past, and hopefully won't call any of y'all out if y'all have got any questions, or I see you on the line. So, but that's about it. Sorry, I'm just kind of rambling right now. So with that, Module 3 is done, and happy Module 4 hunting. I will talk to you later.